Okay. I don't even know what name am I supposed to call you because I call you your TikTok handle both of the times.
Bree.
Okay, just Bree. Because
Yep.
sometimes in your readings on TikTok, I'll call you Brit or I never know what I'm saying.
To be honest, it doesn't matter. I answer to them all. My grandmother calls me Whitney, so I don't even know where we get that
But
from.
that's not your name, but it's
No,
Brit.
no.
He just calls you what name. My family's like
Yeah,
that too. They just call people random things all the
right.
time.
But I'm like, if you're looking at me, I pretty much know you're talking to me.
I know. I'm so excited to talk to you on this one. I wanted to do this one with you because, well, first of all, I know you from being a TikTok client and stuff, but like, well, and we've done one-on-ones, but your story is so interesting, and I think it's interest. I wanted to talk a little bit about like the relationship dynamics and some of them that you're dealing with because I've noticed in the comments a couple times you or other people who like are doing more of a lot of people are doing like a poly thing today, and I think some people I just think there's a lot of misunderstanding around it, don't you think? Like
Oh
that's
yeah.
not we don't need to talk about that the whole hour, but that was one of
No,
the main
yeah,
reasons,
yeah.
you know?
Definitely it is. Yeah, definitely.
Like how does that come up for you in life or how I guess how did that even start for you?
When I'm gonna say I've probably had a polyamorous mindset since I was early 20s, but I just
Yeah.
didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about kind of what I call spirit kind of fishes you to do. And anything that's kind of outside of the norm or tradition, you tend to automatically vehemently reject, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what happened, probably, like I said, early 20s. Um, I just happened to fall into a polyamorous relationship and it didn't feel wrong and it worked, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it was, I don't know, junior year of college, and I was dating a female that was married to a gentleman,
Hmm.
and we just all clicked. And it just was organic, and we just kind of formed our own little triad. It was just like one big happy family.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of how it started for me. But again, like I said, I didn't know what it was. It just,
Yeah. I think sometimes people overthink stuff, right? Too. It's funny. I remember specifically, I don't usually remember readings, but I remember doing one for you the other day where we're talking about someone kind of throwing around the idea of like a throuple. And in that reading, I learned the most about people, different types of like ways of living life by like reading your energy, not yours, but everyone sometimes. And in
yeah.
that one, it was like, no, in that instance, I remember saying like the reason to be within in one would be like you just said, where you meet two people and all three of you click together and it's just easy versus like somebody somebody wanting you and the other person and being like, well, maybe this will work. And I think that's why poly has always been so scary for me because it's always that dynamic of, I never want to be the one that gets left. I'm always measuring. I always want to be everyone's first choice.
Okay. I mean, and that's fair. And I think that's fair because you realize that. Um,
Well, I'd say that's my wound. I wouldn't say it's fair. I'd say if the most healed version of me could handle that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't you like, but it's the measuring that gets a lot of people stuck on that where it's hard, I think, right?
Definitely. It's, the same thing for people who have been in polyamory for a while. And, you definitely have to do a lot of introspection, because
Yeah.
typically when we get jealous is because we feel that we are not getting something, we're lacking something, we're jealous
Yeah.
of something or someone. And polyamorous relationship dynamics definitely make you look at yourself and say, other than just your partner not meeting your needs, I get that, but
Yeah.
when you're just, when you feel jealousy about something, it really does make you look at yourself and say, okay, what is my perception of what I'm lacking? And
Yeah.
that's definitely been an area of healing for me. So yeah, definitely. But you're that's fair for you to feel that way. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you feel like you
No.
be, that person's only romantic interest, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
However, one thing I do look at, that polyamory has definitely helped me with is how do I look at my other person's friends and family? Because we a lot of the time we have a thing where I need to be first.
Yes.
If you're romantically involved with me, I need to be first, right? So, but it's like, okay, so if your person's mom calls and says, hey, I need so and so, and you're like, oh, we plan to go to the movies. Are you going to be upset because they chose, their mother or
Right.
hanging out with their friends or whatever the case may be? So I look at it the same way.
The old me, yes, I would have been upset. No, but
No, I
no,
understand that.
not
Yeah.
anymore. I think from a healed place, no. Yeah, I think that's the thing too. You need to have really good communication about everything too, because I think it's so funny. It's come up. Like I always say, when they say destiny is like choosing what your soul needs, but fate is just letting it happen. I've kind of always been more of a fate person, and there's been plenty of times where polyamory has come up in my purview, like, and even the person that that I formerly known as my twin flame or whatever we're saying,
Mhm.
the Gemini moon guy. Like I know that was the one thing he said, a year ago is like I have cheated on everyone I've always been with, and I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to lie to you. And I know that, monogamy is important for you. I don't know if that's the barrier anymore, but I'm saying at one point in time it was. So I had to like search my soul. Like, is this something I'd be willing to be with the person I love and know that they love me? Is this something I'd be willing to like kind of allow? And how would that sit with my soul? How would the most healed version of me handle that? And I still don't have the answer, like, honestly.
I think, and this is just my opinion, but polyamory, not ethical non-monogamy, because you
Yeah.
can have, I mean, that's the complete umbrella. You can know that your person might be physically intimate with someone else, that falls under that umbrella of
Yeah.
monogamy, right? But I feel like if you, really have a polyamorous heart, meaning you can make and sustain multiple romantic, loving relationships, I think there's room there to look at, are you just afraid of the idea of commitment? And is
Mhm.
that why you feel that you've cheated? Or if there's other, wounds that
Yeah.
you have to deal with, because we still are committed to, our partners. I'm just as committed to my wife as I would be to anyone that I can't legally have that title with, and if that's
Yep.
something that we're doing, then that's what we're doing. We're committing there. So yeah, if commitment is the issue, it's not going to work in polyamory either. It's just going to be a
Yeah.
bigger mess.
I love that. And I thank you for the distinction because I think I was grouping it all. You're right. Ethical non-monogamy and then polyamory are two different things. I think it's like, I think there's a lot of people out there though that use either one of those labels in their marriage just because they know they have a partner that is going to cheat because of their own insecurities. You're not doing that, but I'm saying like, I think there's plenty, you must encounter that too.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, definitely. Definitely. It's typically the ones who, I mean, everyone has their availability and that's fine. But it's typically the
Yeah.
people who are like, well, I'm only gonna call you on Wednesdays at 7.
Mm.
And maybe we can hook up on Wednesdays at 7. And it's like, okay, I understand having a schedule, but that feels a little bit creepy to me. And
Yeah.
especially if it's a parallel dynamic, parallel meaning, your partners don't know each other,
Yeah.
that just, I don't know, that rubs me the wrong way because that feels like cheating. It doesn't feel like this
No.
is what you and your partner, or this is what you um are doing ethically, or your agreed upon relationship dynamic. So yeah, I definitely run into that.
Yeah, there was another guy that I met that clearly, like, I've been calling in soul ties for these 2 years since I have been dating since my divorce. And there was another guy I met. So, the app, The Pattern, they have a dating part of it. And they literally, because The Pattern uses like astrology and numerology. So they'll tell you if you plug someone's info, like if they're supposedly, if they'll tell you if they're just like with the spiritual matches, and they'll tell you if it's a soulmate. So I matched with this guy who was a soulmate supposedly, and he lived in Pittsburgh, but he was married, and he was in a he was in a poly I guess it was polyamory marriage, but he had some weird, so I was just kind of like, well, I like journeyed on it as I do with the shamanic traditions, and yeah, like I had had a ton of lives with this guy, but for me, polyamory was always my line in the sand. So that was my spot to like, that's the time I took to really think about it. Ultimately, I was like, I can't do this because his wife, to me, this is what was weird. His wife needed to know everything about me and us. And then she even needed like a lot of details of anything sexual that we would be doing. And it almost was to the point that it was like, I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I felt like a weird person in their marriage.
Yeah. And you know, some people do have relationships that are set up like that. And I'm just going to be honest that, oh, did you go away?
No, I'm
Okay.
here.
Oh, there you go. That doesn't work for me because I
No.
don't feel like it is, I don't feel like I have a relationship with this person. I feel like an accessory,
Yes.
which is fine. If you want to be an accessory, that's completely fine. But, you know, you don't feel like this is a relationship with this person. You know, in every dynamic, you have your agreements, right? And the things that you're comfortable with in your relationship boundaries. But anything outside of what your agreed upon boundaries are. And it's important too, I think what happens is when someone comes into a pre-existing relationship,
Mhm.
they're looked upon as almost, you know, the other person.
Yeah.
This person is, you know, coming into this and not these two people are making a connection. Um, What's funny is that's kind of the issue with the person that I typically talk to you about,
Yes.
is that, you know, he is very new to polyamory.
Okay.
And I think the issue is he dates his other primary partners are monogamish, meaning I really want all your time and attention. And if I feel that if I just, you know, show up for you 100% or way more than what you need, you won't need to go outside of our relationship.
Yes.
And you can't think of it as outside your relationship because this is not happening outside your relationship. This is a separate relationship.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's, you know, a lot of the issue, because he really does have a polyamorous heart,
Yeah.
but he's dating people who are monogamish. And so it's not working because, you know, it's sad to say that some people are okay knowing that you're going to have a physical connection with someone every now and again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But when there's an emotional connection, that's where the
Yeah.
problems come in with the jealousy and, you know, just, you know, any amount of the issues.
Yeah.
And you know, it's difficult, and not just meaning to always go back to him, but it's difficult because there's so many times over this past year I was like, I mean, you know, move on. Like, what are you
I
doing? Like, why
know.
are we sitting here stuck here, right? But you feel this connection with this person, and you know that you have, you know, a deeper connection with this person, even if it's meant because, oh my goodness, Ange.
Yeah.
The one thing I know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump around,
No, go for
but the
it.
one thing that I'm so grateful for in my connection with him
Hmm.
is because, you know, I spent all last year praying, like, okay, I want to get over a lot of my wounds and my abandonment
Yeah.
issues, and you know, and in my mind this is going to be cream, I'm going to go to therapy and it's just going to just work out with butterflies and glitter.
Uh,
Then
if
it took
only.
someone who, this is just crazy to me, which first of all, I want to say that I appreciate you because it's hard for me to even talk to my traditional therapist about these things because she's not she doesn't necessarily, and I don't, when I say understand, she doesn't understand the spiritual part of it.
Yeah.
So as to why, you know, there's so many different parts that, you know, play into this connection. When I'm like, yeah, you know, that's what I set out to do. 2023, I'm going to wake up on January 1st, 2023, fully whole and fully healed. And I'm going to stand in my power and be Wonder Woman.
Yay.
And I'm thinking that it's going to look so differently.
Yeah.
Then enters this person. And when I say they went deep and scratched all of the wounds I thought I healed,
Yeah.
like to the point where I have an abandonment wound kind of, and when I said caused by my father, he passed away. So it's not like he just left, but
Yeah.
that doesn't look,
It
it
still
doesn't look that
hurts.
way. Right. And especially to a child, they don't see it
Yes.
that way. It's you
He's just
left me.
gone. Yeah.
Right. And so that, that definitely still lingers. I'm 36. My father passed away when I was 1, and it still is there, right? And so it took this person who, regardless of whatever happens previously to this incarnation, who said, yeah, I'm gonna come, we're gonna have the same last name. I'm gonna have the same last name as your father. I'm going to look like your father. I'm gonna have a very similar job to your father. We're gonna fall in love, even in a polyamorous dynamic. I'm gonna know you before you tell me anything about you. I'm just gonna know you, and basically step in to trigger my abandonment issues that I have from my father by repeatedly abandoning me.
Yes.
And not even, I want to say it doesn't feel malicious, because I understand why it had to happen, because I called it in, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, repeatedly making me look at my self-worth and being like, oh, well, this person is choosing someone else because I'm not worthy,
Right.
And I didn't feel like that way with anyone else. So I wouldn't be doing this healing work if he wasn't here.
Right.
So yeah,
it's a gift in that way. Like I felt it's so
yeah.
funny just listening to you say that. Like stories can be different, the details can be different, but the energy behind them are so similar. Because I feel very similarly about that person for me. And after my divorce, I knew I was going to meet a strong soul tie right away, and then I did, and then same, like and then even when him and I stopped interacting and I would date other people, abandonment, like until you get to the point that you're like it doesn't bother you anymore because you heal enough and you actually like yourself for the first time, right? But just this morning I had this huge realization, because it's so funny that you're saying he was so much like your father, because there's this other man that I've talked to and dated, whatever, on and off for a year and a half, a different soul tie. That kind of always same thing. I realized this morning, like I am picking people who wound me in the same way that my parents did. It just and I could be passing on them quickly, but I get that I'm drawn when people say things are also a trauma bond. Like, yeah, that is another way for it. They can be a soul tie, but like I'm noticing now my pattern in this of like they can help to heal you. But I feel like today I got to a point. Now you know me, I'm always flip-flopping all over the place, my air sign self. But I feel like I got to a point where I'm just like, I'm done with these people that make me feel wounded in the same way that my parents, because my parents also are wonderful people. They're both in my life. They're just not. They're not the type that's going to spend a lot of time with me in person.
No, I get that.
And then I choose partners like that too. So for me, it's the time spent in person. It's not everything else. So it's like I can't. I've had boyfriends that wanted to do life with me in a very normal way and do stuff with me all the time. And then but the thing is, they drive me nuts too. So like I'm taking some time now to figure that out. But I think it's like we look for those wounds when we need them to help heal until we realize, oh, I don't need to ask for this anymore.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Definitely. That's why I think, too, when I came across your page on TikTok, it was my sign for me, for spirit, for my intuition, whatever word you want to use. Oddly enough, it's heartburn. When I know something I'm supposed to pay attention to or go toward, I get heartburn.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I come, you're on my For You page. And when I say, and I know how this is going to sound, but I promise this is 100% honest and it's positive. I'm scrolling, it's probably 3:00 in the morning. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, he and I were going, when I'm saying back and forth is, how whatever this is, you mirror each other's energy, right? So I'm like, well, if he's going to leave me on red for 2 days, I'm going to do the same thing, but make it 3, right? So it's like
sound reasoning.
Right. So it's like the fourth day, and we both have our red receipts on, so we know, we're seeing each other's messages. So it's like the fourth day, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna give in, because I had resolved to just basically making him double text me. This sounds so stupid when I say it out loud, but it made sense to me. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'm just gonna text him. And then you come up on my page like, don't fucking text him. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Oh my
I
God.
was like, wait, I don't feel safe. What's going on here? And I get that heartburn, and I was like, okay, so let me stop and listen, because I know what that sign means. And it was whatever that, video was. And it was, basically about that, mirroring each other. And then you're kind of, perpetuating this cycle that's continuing because of that.
Yeah.
And so I didn't text him.
I love hearing somebody this morning. I was talking to someone this morning. They're like, you're the one that told me that this person's my twin flame. And I'm like, what? I would never do that. Sometimes I am so in a luminous state of awareness when I'm doing anything that I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, Bree. And when I hear you guys say it back to me, I'm like, I sound insane. Why is anyone listening to me?
But what's crazy is that it's what was needed at that time.
Yeah.
Because by me not, and however it sounds, by me not reaching out, it was about a week later, and he literally came back and said, okay, like, hey, I miss you, and I want to apologize for XYZ. And I feel like if I had to text him that night, he would have just been like, okay, this is acceptable.
Yeah.
So fine. And it's so weird, like, during the time that I've followed you, and we've had interactions, and like the things that you go through, and I'm just like, this is so my journey right now. This is exactly everything that I'm like going through. And even when you talk about the wounds from your parents, same thing, with my father passing away, and my mom, she's a business owner. So yeah, she made sure that I was taken care of financially. But no, I got no time with her. Yeah. The same thing happens in my marriage. Yeah. My wife is like, well, no, I'm just going to work 85 hours a day because I want to make sure it's taken care of. And when I said, oh, well, let's just have a TV time or something. And she's like, when you went to the store, did your car decline? Or and this sounds so toxic.
I know what you mean.
In a playful way. Or she was like, you get your lashes and your nails done, don't you? And I'm like, wait, I want you. Yeah. He does the same thing. Literally, like, and I'm like, okay. So it really did make me say, okay, I need to look at myself and see why I keep calling this in. And even if it's with the same people, I know we can change the energy of how they're showing up, because, and sometimes it does mean that that person is no longer meant to be, in your life, and that's fine. But because you get comfortable in those wounds, and you get comfortable in that feeling. And I can be honest, I was definitely, I'm going to use the word addiction, because I was addicted to that feeling of yearning for something, being abandoned. Yeah.
Oh, I've played a really pretty victim my whole life. Like I literally, and I didn't notice. And like, it's funny because my brother's 2.5 younger, and he just has a very different experience of everything. He's way more chill than me. And he'll always be like, nothing bad happened to us, like nothing. What are you like, what is wrong with you? But for me, I think I learned it's because of past life wounds. Like because of our past life stuff, we experience everything in this life differently. So it's like the more we can heal on those areas, which is hard work, as we just can, shit still happens and bad things happen in your life, but you can walk with it differently and hold space for people differently.
No, seriously, definitely. That's when we did a past life reading, and so my clear audience is what I guess when I say worked on more, is because ever since I remember being younger, that's what I was comfortable with. Yeah. And so I can remember having premonitions and things, but I would literally hear it like someone was telling me, no, don't go over here or tell this person XYZ. And, when you're younger, you don't really judge that. And so I would just do it and, the things would happen. And so now that I know what it is, I remember when I first met him and, we had gone on a date and I kept hearing water. And I'm like, what is like, what? I'm like, what? I'm trying to stay present in this date, but also, imagine if you're by a loud babbling brook, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't just stay there. So I had to excuse myself and say, okay, what are you trying to tell me? Like, what are we doing here?
Yes.
And so, number one, he's a water sign.
Okay.
And like 3 placements.
Yeah.
Second, what thing that just kept coming up was this boat and a tragedy with the boat. And I couldn't piece it together. And I just kind of was like, okay, whatever, we'll just let it go. So when I got the past life reading with you and you were talking about, and I know you probably don't remember. I love that
I don't remember.
Like, your dog wants attention right now, but he's like,
I'm ignoring her. She just does this. She wants to be on the podcast. It's s1e5. No, it's not her time.
It's like,
I know.
And you were talking about like this place that we lived kind of remotely together.
Okay.
And you brought up like by water. And so I had to go in a little bit more. And I'm like, okay, you're helping me with these details. And so obviously we were married before and water took him.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And, again, I'm not knowing what this is when we're first meeting. I'm like, why is this, coming up? And so, it kind of makes sense as to why we are replaying this. And then my own father, comes in and, it's taken.
Yeah.
And we just continue to replay this. And, that was one of the things that I was just like, okay, there's something to be learned here versus just feeling sad, because immediately, you just get that rush of very heavy energy.
Yes.
And it's like you feel it all over again. Then one day he came over, we were just hanging out. And now he's agnostic mainly because he needs, I think he does need just some type of guidance when it comes to it,
Yeah.
because he grew up in a very religious household. And so,
a lot of people shut it off. They shut off their connection to spirit because it's
definitely
too judgmental when they grew up with organized religion. But yeah.
So yeah, then one day he's just like, we're just sitting there and we're, talking. And he just says, I'm sorry, this is like,
no,
sorry, let me get it together.
You're
Mind
good.
you, I don't talk to him about twin flame things.
Yeah.
I just let it happen as it's happening, right? So he's half asleep in a little twilight, and then he says, I know you're afraid to kiss me because you think I'm gonna leave you. You think that I'm gonna leave you again. And I'm like, I said, what made you say again? And he was like, I know that's why you're afraid, because you think that I'm going to leave you again. You're afraid to kiss me because you think that I'm going to leave you again. And now, mind you, yes, yes, I definitely shield my feelings. And it's so crazy because it's like, how are you involved in a polyamorous, let alone a monogamous relationship where you are guarding your heart? So, because that's what anxiety does. It makes you say, if I know the outcome to everything, I can be ready and protect myself, right?
Yes.
So he brings that up, and I'm just like, I'm sitting there because in my mind, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what's happening. And so, and he even brings up sometimes about, our connection. He was like, I just can't believe how quickly this happened. And, how we communicate without talking. as you can pretty much tell, I am very loquacious, right? But when I'm with him, we barely talk.
Yeah.
And from the outside looking in, it looks like, dang, like y'all don't have no like chemistry, like what's going on? But we always know
Yeah.
what's going on in each other's heads. If we're next to each other or 700 miles away, it always happens.
Yeah.
And so now that he's beginning to open up and I think accept that a little bit more, he definitely feels when I pull my energy back.
Yeah.
And I do that, mainly to protect myself because, I'm pouring into this cup and not even that my cup is being empty, but it's just like, you keep pouring into this cup and this person's cup is already full.
Yeah.
All these other things that he does use I'm going to use your words, use to numb.
Yeah.
Like work.
Yeah.
Work is definitely his. And that's what it was before. That's how he passed away in our life before.
That makes sense.
On the boat.
Yeah.
I was just like, what? So I don't know. This journey has been crazy, but 13 months in, I can definitely say I've realized so much. And, I've reached a point where I don't get anxious about it anymore.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm going to be honest. Yeah, sometimes I ask, because it sometimes it can hurt a little bit to feel like, well, this person isn't thinking about me, even though, Ange, I know he is.
Yeah.
Like, I know he is.
Yeah,
right?
I'm
not
he's
even
not gone.
questioning it, right?
Right.
But I think one thing too that's had the biggest impact for me is being in romantic relationships with two people from my soul family at the same time.
Yes. Yes.
I was not ready for that.
Well, and I've been doing that too, because like truly, not as much as like a whole ass marriage, but I have like I have fucked heavily with different, not just slept with, but like I've fucked heavily with soul ties this whole 2 years, and I got to a point where now I don't even journey. Like my last boyfriend I was with in July, I could tell it was a soul tie. I get, because like the synchronicities, like how you feel heartburn. I just see things like there's certain astrological placements, there's certain things people say and way they carry themselves, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I know. So I knew I don't even journey anymore because I'm like, this doesn't mean that they're gonna be. It doesn't mean that they're going to be in my life long or short, or it just means I'm supposed to experience it. So I'm just going to shut the fuck up and learn what I need to learn and be present.
Yeah.
But you can love so many at once. And I honestly, the one guy I've dated for 1.5 years versus the person that I called my twin that's been over 2 years, I think in a way I love them both, yeah, but when you call in multiple soul ties, it's a lot, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's definitely, it can be exciting, draining. It's so many times I wake up and I'm just, I'm just like, listen, I'm not for it today. I don't want any lessons today.
I know.
Today can just be boring, right? No, that doesn't happen. But like I said, when I look back and I say I prayed for months to get over these wounds, right?
Yeah.
Or, when I wake up and, I'm like, oh no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm healed. Something comes in that says, okay, let me trigger you a little bit and see how you handle it. And I have to recognize that, because before I'm just saying, oh wait, there's something that I need to change. I'm bringing this in, but it's literally to see, okay, you've had these lessons up until now. Are you going to, incorporate these behavioral changes, right?
Yes. That's been hard for me because I operated on fate forever. So I'm like, I'm dumb little Libra, like, oh, this ex-boyfriend came back that I haven't talked to since January. Oh, I'm supposed to be with him. Like, no, you dumb wide-eyed idiot. Like, you're supposed to tell him to fuck off because it's your time to say no thank you now. I think that's tricky once you learn, you're like, oh.
No,
and it doesn't mean you're off track either, because I used to do that too, where I was like, oh my god, this person with this problem is in front of me, that means I solve the problem. No, everyone's your mirror, but sometimes they're mirroring your old stuff that you've healed.
And I think I learned that very recently, because like you said, I'm thinking, oh, this is something else I need to, when I'm saying entertain, but it's coming back up in front of me, so I need to jump into it and entertain it more. And then sometimes it's no, thanks for showing me this, but I've moved on. So
I know.
yeah, that definitely happens. And especially when it's something that you want or even that you thought you wanted. Or something. I'm just gonna give an example because I don't even know what to call this. So I am the person who swears off children. Not even that. I don't have a problem with them.
Yeah.
I love kids, but I love other people's kids. Like I'll babysit for the weekend. I love to go to the Cabbage Patch Doll Land and we can play.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give them back. Never dreamed of being pregnant. I have sisters and even my wife's girlfriend, she wants a child so bad. And she, I can, and especially being more of a medical intuitive and empath.
Mm-hmm.
I can always feel kind of what's going on with other people. And she wants a baby so bad that my womb hurts, like aches when she is around. And I know I don't have to explain that. You understand what I mean.
Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I've never had the desire, you know what I'm saying, for children. And he comes in and is bringing this up and he wants children so badly. And I'm just like, okay, again, especially the type of polyamory that I practice, that's not a problem for me. It's not even a problem if my wife were to have a baby. We would just be what everybody calls one big hippie family. Like, that's fine. I would just watch the kid when you're at work or whatever the case. And then it's like, ever since then, I am almost inundated with, this person wants to have a baby with you. And I don't mean on social media. I mean my family, just random at work, random people asking me, are you a mom? This is and a third. And when you want to deny something, you take it as, oh no, there's the esoteric meaning to it. Right? No, I'm just fertile. I'm just, I'm a captain of my industry. I'm just loving, and this is that the third. But it's like sometimes
I love you. I'm sorry. That's so funny.
Oh, it is.
I love you so much.
I'm like, no, that's not what it means at all. Not a literal baby. Come on.
Yeah.
But then it's like, and again, I'm not saying that things weigh heavier than others, but just like the other day when you and I were talking and you were just like, I know you probably don't remember, but when you brought up like the whole marriage thing, and I'm sitting here like, no, like that's definitely not something that we would do.
Yeah.
And then he brings up, wanting to be married and have children. And
did he? I do remember that reading. He brought it up after that reading. Yeah.
I did not expect for you to remember that.
I do, because I remember I don't know why. I remember weird things when I'm supposed to, but I remember being like, I feel like if he wants to marry you and have kids, and if you were to be like, okay, I'll leave all this polyamory behind, I would just go, didn't I say that? That's how I remember feeling. Yeah.
It's crazy that because I know it typically comes through like a, channel for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's definitely, he brings that up, and not because, he respects my wife. He knows my wife. He loves my wife. And so not in a disrespectful manner, but, this is what he said versus what I heard.
Yeah.
I can't prioritize someone that I can't marry, was what was said, right? What I heard through all of the wounds, right? Because, you put up that filter, what you hear is, well, you just ain't shit. And I wouldn't marry you if you were the last person on earth.
This is so funny because I used to do those same things, and I don't think that way anymore. But No Can Do Scooter, Danny, will text me. She just texted me something very similar to that yesterday. Like, will you look at this text that I got from this guy? Yes. And she sends it to me, and I thought, oh, that's such a nice text. And she was like, why does he just say he doesn't want to fucking see me? And I was like, what?
Like, that's not what he said.
Yeah.
That's how I read it. And then I was like, you know what? There's still some work there, because it's like that's literally not what he said, It was when you brought that up, and like I said, it just keeps popping up, and I'm sitting here like, no, like I'm not having children, so I don't know why all these things keep coming up. And even, not to try to get like too personal, but like even when it comes to, let's just say reproductive health,
Yes.
my doctors are basically like, no, you cannot have children.
Yeah.
And half of me thought, damn, did I accept that? Because do I not want children because my doctors told me I couldn't?
Mm-hmm.
Or, it's kind of the other way
Yeah.
around. But, between us chickens,
I love it.
like how I was about to whisper to you.
Yeah, do it.
I don't have, and if this is too much for this podcast,
No,
let me know.
no. There's no such thing. You know
Okay.
how I talk.
I just
So
want to make sure.
no.
Because, and like I said, I think I feel, it's definitely a bit more comforting here because I know you understand the spiritual
Yeah.
part of it. I have PCOS. I only
Yeah.
have cycles when I go to the doctor and the doctor
Yeah.
makes me, right?
Yeah.
When we see each other regularly, I have a cycle every time
Uh-huh.
that, if it's more like when we were, really being very consistent and seeing each other once, 2, 3 times a week, my cycle was regular, like monthly, regular. And I was sitting there like, went to my doctor, like, how is this? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, well, your body can just regulate itself.
Yeah.
Then once we, took a couple months apart and I didn't have a cycle, I was like, okay, like I see
Yes.
kind of what's going on here. But it's just crazy because, you really think that you are going crazy because
You do.
all these things happen. And not even saying that you have to follow that or, lean toward that or, whatever. But it is funny how healing the pain is.
It is. I have to tell you,
Very
okay, so
profound.
I don't full on, I have never been told I have PCOS, but I don't know. I probably do. I don't understand how I don't. So, because I've never, like, I didn't get my period until later. I think I was like 14 or 15. I was older. And then it's never been regular. So I had to be on birth control forever just to get regular periods. Like, since I was, because the whole, if you don't get for a year, you're high risk for uterine cancer, right? So they freak out. Okay. So I was on birth control forever because of that. And in my 20s, they said, if you ever want to have a baby, like you're gonna have to try really hard. So I will say in high school and in my early 20s, I always thought my soul's purpose was to be a mother. I did. And then but then I got all that news in my 20s and part of me like shut down. I was like, well, fuck it. Then I will just never, because I don't want to have to go through like in vitro or anything invasive. If God wanted me to have a baby, I had to have a baby, right? So I was never careful, and I don't know. But same thing. I had a boyfriend in my 20s who, looking back, was definitely a very strong soul tie, and I don't know why we were a situationship before it was a thing. I invented it. No, so,
no, I get it.
But I'm like,
I was the originator. I'm the
I was. This is in the 2000s. Yeah, 2005. I invented the situationship. It was not great, but okay. So we were kind of random and on it. We were always fighting. So, but every time when I did see him, when I did like sleep with him, and if he, not to be too technical, but I'm gonna be really clear, when he like finished inside, I would get a period the next day, and I'm like, is there something in? I don't know. It was so weird. It was like specifically that. And then there are a few times with him that, because when I did get my period, it would be so heavy that it would be uncomfortable. But there's a few times with him that, looking back, were clearly miscarriages. I just thought I couldn't get pregnant. So I thought there was no way, right? So fast forward to, I'm 33. And that's when I was with my ex-husband. I don't know if you've heard the story about how I got pregnant. Did I tell you that? Did I ever tell this online? But so
well, you may have, but I didn't hear it.
I was on the pill just to get a period. And same as you, if I didn't get one, sometimes I would go through a whole pill pack and then I wouldn't get a period and I'd have to call them because he was on me about it, and then they would give me progesterone so that it would spur the period so that I could get back on the pill. Okay. So that was like a normal part of life for me. So I went through a pill pack. And I was really, if you know how you're supposed to, like the 1 week off in between in those pill packs is when you don't take the pill, right? Well,
Mhm.
sometimes I'd go 2 or 3 weeks because I'd be lazy refilling this prescription and
Mhm.
it didn't matter because I couldn't get pregnant.
Right. So it's like it's
So
not gonna matter anyway.
yeah, so I get through a pill pack. I was 32 when this happened, and I'm at work, and I realized I didn't get my period. I realized I was supposed to get my period like a week ago, and I was like, "Well, that's really weird." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll call my doctor so they can give me progesterone." Oh wait, they're gonna make me take a pregnancy test first, so I'll just run to Walgreens at lunch and get a pregnancy test. Okay,
Yeah.
so I run on my lunch break. I go to Walgreens. I get a pregnancy test, and neurotic Ange is like, "Well, I can't. I don't want to take it at work because I don't want anyone to see me in the bathroom with the pregnancy test." So
Okay.
and I'm not going to use the Walgreens bathroom because I don't want them to think I stole it. So I'm going to go across the street to McDonald's and take the pregnancy test.
Okay.
So I go over there. I'm in a McDonald's bathroom. I take it thinking it's going to be a real quick thing so I can call my doctor on the way back and get them to fill the script for the progesterone.
Yeah.
And I'm pregnant. So I was in the McDonald's bathroom alone in the middle of a workday. My ex-husband, who at the time was my live-in boyfriend, was
What?
on a job site somewhere. I wasn't gonna be able to reach him before. And I just remember I screamed fuck so loud that the lady in the next stall was like, "Are you okay?"
You
And I was
okay?
like, "Yeah,
Right.
I'm just pregnant."
What?
So I got in the car, I called my best friend Beth, and she's my childhood best friend. And I never call. So I never call anyone. I never have. I text. So when the phone rings and it's my name, if you're one of my close friends, you answer because you're like, this is weird. So Beth answers, and her daughter, so her daughter was 4 at the time, and she was 3. She was like, she answered. She's like, hello, and I was like, I am pregnant. And she's like, oh my God. And so what she told me later is she had to pick Lola up from school because she had a really severe ear infection. So Lola was crying
Yeah.
and screaming and she was in the minivan. But when I said that, she just closed the minivan and walked away from the ear infection kid. Because she
Because
was
I'm like, right. I'm sorry. Like the kid will be okay.
it was so huge. Yeah.
She'll be fine.
But
Yeah.
so it was like a miracle that I got pregnant with him. And I was 11 weeks pregnant, Bree. So I'd gotten pregnant before I started that pack in the in-between break, and I had no idea. But fast forward, so then I still never got, that's why we had trouble. We tried to have a second one, we couldn't. And but having gone, when I went through the directions, the shamanic directions, a lot of even PCOS it just has to do with a lot of spiritual things. It's crystallized energy, it's trauma, it's sacral chakra work. And so when I finished the directions last May, by the time I did, I had an IUD in, but I was getting regular periods on top of the IUD. And so I got the IUD taken out, and I have 31-day cycles now, and I have since.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Wow. Definitely. Yeah, and I definitely would believe that. But it completely makes sense though. Because especially the things that we go through that contribute to our traumas and
Yes.
our traumas around ourselves and who we are as I'm just speaking for myself as a cis woman, as our reproduction and what our sacral chakras represent. And
Yeah.
when you do take a minute to go through that, and when you're finding something that is helping you to heal that, it'll definitely show up in, like you said, regular cycles, getting pregnant despite all the despite being on the pills, whatever the case may be. So I definitely understand that. And I think that's why I feel this way, with this person. This is why.
Well, because it's healing, it's helping you. And that's what I was kind of going with. When you get a period after aligning with them, I think it's more about just the energy of you two coming together, kind of aligning you, than it is. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with that. And that's why I think, sometimes it makes me so mad because I'm like, I just want to walk away. I just want to delete his number and just don't talk to me anymore. And it's so difficult because of all the positive that has come out of this. And,
as long as you're still getting, I always say, like, pardon me, as long as you're still getting positive interactions out of that relationship, then keep doing it, right? Like, for me, I got to a point where I realized it had been a long time since anything good had come from it. So I knew it was done. Like, that's when, because honestly, truly, even if your strongest soul ties, like, I think everything is karmic. So like everything has its cycle. If you're lucky, it's when they die next to you at an old age, right? But it's still a cycle.
Yeah.
Where are
No,
you
that
at
completely
on
makes sense.
where are you at on the whole twin flame thing still? Like, is it a thing or what is it for you? You know how I went through my arc again this week,
Yeah.
but I can hold space for anything.
You know, that, to be honest, I think that I'm gonna go in a roundabout way to answer your question. I'm gonna make it quick though. You know, labels are really hard for me anyway,
Yeah.
because, you know, no situation, I work in healthcare. Even in healthcare, nothing fits nicely, neatly into whatever you label it. You know, there's always caveats, there's always these exceptions, right? And so, you know, you try to use labeling, so, you know, for the sake of communication, so you understand what I'm talking about, but you
Yeah.
still have to go back and 9 times out of 10 explain, you know, more into the situation. The reason why I think the twin flames term works for me and this specific person is because of, number one, you know, the amount of telepathy that we do
Yeah.
have. And you know, I have that with my wife because, like I said, she's definitely, you know, one of my soul ties.
Mhm.
But this is gonna sound like a corny joke, but I'm just gonna go ahead and make it.
Do it.
It's just that my connection with him is so incendiary. That's
Mhm.
why I'm like, twin flame completely makes sense, because you get engulfed, right, by everything that's happening, and you want to blame this other person that's coming in your life, and you're ruining my life, and you're making all this,
Yeah.
you know, you're making all these waves, or whatever the case may be. You're not showing up for me how I want you to show up for me. But once you kind of turn that around and feed your own, you know, fire there, then that's where the healing begins. At first, I thought that's where it stopped.
Yeah.
I was very much, I would have died on that hill. No, once I got here, my healing has stopped, right? But I'm noticing now, no, this is where it's beginning for
Yeah.
me, because I'm seeing things from a different perspective. I know what is triggering for me, and I know how I need to respond to situations in order to maintain my peace.
I love that.
Yeah, I'll leave it to you.
I mean, it's beautiful. That is beautiful. I think the twin flame journey is real. I just said this morning to someone too, but like,
Yeah.
I just I don't know that that means we're stuck with them forever.
Yeah, no, and I can definitely agree. And I'm sorry that I should have just made
No,
it short and said that, but yeah, I
no, I like
definitely
what you said.
agree. Um, yeah, I don't know if, but you know what though, and this is just maybe me, and because this is how I feel about relationships anyway. I don't feel like you're stuck with anyone forever.
Yeah.
You know, my wife and I, and you know, a lot of people, even within polyamory, kind of look at our connection strange, because our vows were to be an integral part of each other's growth.
Mm,
And we understand that that does not always mean that you're going to grow together, but
yeah.
that's what we vow to each other.
What a beautiful relationship, though. Like that
We
is.
have a great relationship.
That's what is I think honestly it's funny some of the terms you use today I'm gonna steal, but like I like how you said like polyamorous heart. I feel like the same way, like because even I have a hard time even with the people, if I were to pick between some of the people I dated this year, like that was always my problem. Like, well, I always feel like I would leave for someone. Like, I always love more than one people at a time.
Mhm.
I thought it was just being called a Libra, really. No.
No, no. I mean, I
No.
get that. No, I get that. I definitely get that. But I think my Gemini moon helps with that. I'm a Taurus
Yes, that's
sun.
right.
I'm gonna say I'm a Taurus sun and a Gemini moon. So I think that definitely helps to where, you
I love
know,
that.
I always say, like, I always call myself the Seven of Cups, because like I'm literally sitting there. I mean, you know, and I know the
Yeah.
traditional meaning of those, but I am able to compartmentalize
Yeah.
relationships. And also, you know, it's to where I'm pouring from multiple cups. So it's not one cup that I'm pouring into everyone else. I'm pouring from, my own multiple cups. And so, and that's why I was saying earlier that I think that it's fair for you to realize that you have a monogamous heart.
Yeah.
Because that's not fair to someone if you are going into a polyamorous relationship and you have a monogamous heart.
Yeah.
They're going to get parts of you. They're not going to get the full of you because, a lot of people go into it with the mindset of, oh, I need to go here because I'm not getting something from here. And it's not, oh no, I just want my own relationship with this person and I'm going to show up as me, right?
Yeah. I love that. What's your Venus placement? Do you know? I'm always curious. You're like, I'm looking it up. Well, because this is where
what's horrible is that I have it in my phone. That's why I'm looking.
I know. That's okay. Because I have kind of a theory. I formerly known as twin, is a Gemini moon, but he's an Aquarius Venus. And that's why I think he has a polyamorous heart. Like, I just don't think he'll ever be able to be with one person. I think he's always going to love a lot of people.
No, I get that. You know what? I know that my Venus is another Earth.
Is that that's probably why that's probly why it's more polyamory, where you're in all these committed not all these, but they're committed relationships.
I understand what you're saying
because you're grounded.
Virgo.
Yep, that makes sense. That because you're so detailed. Yeah, that makes sense too. I
was like, I had to look at it, but yeah.
So where does that leave you for you already are, so you have this guy who's driven you crazy but helped you heal, and then you have your wife that you love. Like, are you still open to more relationships too, or at this point do you get to a point where you're like, I am full up right now?
So yeah, there's a such thing that's called polysaturation, right? So when you're doing, some people can have, and of course, each one of your relationships has different involvement, right? So you can definitely have someone that you see once a month or once a week or, whatever the case may be. My preference is to have two partners that I completely give, myself, my time to.
Yeah.
That's what I like. That's what works best for me. I've tried to have more than two. And I don't want to say I forget about this relationship, but if I'm being honest with myself, I know the amount of involvement that I want in my relationships.
Yeah.
And I think it works well for me. When I talk to people about, my brand of polyamory, a lot of it has to do, all of it, I can't even say a lot of it, 98% of it has to do with your partners.
Yeah.
Because, I'm married to a person who does not require lots of attention. So, outside of work and, my own ventures and other relationships, that relationship is not being neglected because she does not require, she just doesn't need a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Right. And so if I were to go, spend a week with someone else, she would feel absolutely no way. She probably, quiet as it's kept, she probably would have a party of herself. She would have a one-person party and just be here, in her underwear, listening to old records off the shelf.
I am the same way, so I get it. Yeah.
And she's a Capricorn, so I think that helps too with why she works the way she does. But yeah, and so I definitely think that that's a bit, not even think, I know that's a big part. You have to know what your polysaturation is. And like I said, some people, that's fine, if it's a once a week thing or once a month thing, and that's just your connection, that's completely fine. But me personally, if it were up to me, if I could wave a magic wand and make my perfect world, we would just all live in one big house together.
I love it. It's so funny, but it takes it's indicative of the fact that you know who you are and you feel really confident and solid with yourself, because there's no measuring, or it just is, and that's love in its purest form. So that's admirable.
Or communication. That's a good thing too, because things come up and you have questions, and as a person, you fill in the blanks. If you don't know something, you're going to fill in the blank, right? And sometimes that blank is not the story that your mind has made up. And you go to that person and you say, well, here's a story that I came up with. And they're like, no. No, that wasn't the story. But yeah, I think, communication that's early, that's often, that's happening in real time. So you don't build up that resentment.
Yeah,
I
that's
think that's
worth
the
a
most
lot.
important. Yeah.
Well, I just love you to pieces,
I
Bree.
love
Like
you too,
seriously, I'm glad we got
Ish.
to catch up for an hour.
Definitely.
Some of my clients, I mean, I love most of my clients, but some of my one-on-one clients, and you're definitely one of them, where I have my little 11-minute window, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could talk to you all day. Like I definitely feel that way about you, so I'm glad we got to talk on here.
Yay. No, thank you. I definitely appreciate this. This was great.
I know. Well, have a great rest of your night. I love you. All
You too. I love you
right.
too. You don't text them. No,
I don't even have anyone not to text anymore. I'm just
Okay.
everybody's on mute. I'm just blowing everyone off, Bree. That's
Okay.
just where I'm
Okay.
at. But
But
it's
look
life.
at where your energy's been sent.
Yeah,
Not to try to, but yeah,
I
like,
know.
girl, because when I say, and I'm not sorry, I'm
Oh,
just the
go.
last thing I say, but that reading I had with you where I literally said, Ange, verbatim. I'm not trying to pump your head up. I'm not lying to you when I say
Yeah.
it was verbatim. And I'm not saying that you were not, accurate in what you were talking about before, but like now, like your spiritual gifts have just been amplified, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And again, who
I
am I?
I agree.
But
Like in this period of celibacy for me in the past couple of months, they have
mhm,
been. Isn't that wild? Like I was giving, I think that as women too, like we don't realize how much of that sexual healing energy is
mhm,
the gifts within it when I was just
mhm,
sharing it with the wrong people.
mhm. And I get that. And if it's being abused, then
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely. Like when we had that phone call, I was like, is Ange on this call? Like, how does she know exactly? But like, yeah, I'm sorry,
Oh,
that threw me. And I was quiet for so long and made him be like, are you still there? I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I just heard this before.
I love it. I love that's why it was so funny. I don't know if you listened in the first couple episodes of the podcast, but like the first one where my mom said she thinks I just tell all of you guys what you want to hear, and I was like, no,
No,
it's wild. I don't even
no,
know. But
I
that's why I don't
didn't.
remember okay, wait. Some of the funniest ones are people telling me like so on the podcast episode I did with Scorpio Starseed Tarot Jill,
Yeah.
she's like telling me about this past life that I told her that, like the guy shot her or something. I don't know. And she's talking to me about,
Mm.
and I had a flashback of I didn't remember this, but I was like, that was the Dick Tracy life. Like, and I remember being like, it's so
See?
stupid. It was like her life was like Dick Tracy, like the old movie. And
They connect.
why I was like, why do you literally you guys are paying me to tell you these weird stories? But she's like, no, that resonated so
Yeah.
hard.
It's crazy. It's
It's
crazy.
crazy.
Like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna let it go. I'm getting goosebumps on my arms now because it was just crazy.
It's beautiful work.
Um,
And that's why the shamanic retreats that
yeah.
I go to when there's 20 of us all doing this work in rounds,
Mm,
like it's undeniable. Spirit is
mm,
undeniable. And it's such a love, it really is a loving, generous, healing universe.
I
So
wish you were in Atlanta because I need
I
to try
know.
here. Goodness gracious.
I know,
Okay.
just move to Green Bay. I'm just kidding. It's not.
Hey, I mean, I've been in the cold before. I'm from Ohio, so it is what it
I
is.
know. You could
All
tell
right,
you're a
I'm sorry. I'm not gonna.
Midwestern girl at heart.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think too, because wait, I think one day you said like oat or something. And I remember on your live, and I was like, wait a minute, but that's what made me ask where you live. Because I was like, hold on. I haven't
Yeah.
heard oat in so long. Because we say oat for everything. You're moving out of the way. Oh, when you drop something.
Yes.
Oh,
Well, I grew up in Milwaukee, which so I'm just used to Green Bay is very I don't know, it's just very like everybody is like straight white and conservative. And I grew up
I
in
agree with
a
that.
pl- in Br- in a community in Milwaukee that was more very diverse, and there was just a lot of everything. So like I think that's why I feel since I moved up here I found my TikTok family. So it's like, oh my God, thank God that I get to have like friends that are all not exactly just like me, because I think
Mhm.
one of the now that I'm entering on, even though we said our goodbyes, but one time at
So
my
sorry.
church in Milwaukee, we had a guest pastor. So we partnered with one of the more inner city churches, and the guest pastor came and she said something to us too, like, look in your phone at the 5 people that you talk to the most on a daily basis.
Okay.
Okay. And she was like, if they all like look like you, grew up in the same place as you, date
Mhm.
the same types of people as you,
Mhm.
and like have the same spiritual beliefs have that, then you are doing yourself a disservice. Like the best thing you can do is get yourself in a community. And I mean, not to say our TikTok community is very like-minded in the spiritual sense, but that's why I love our lives, because if you look at the different readings we do on people, there are just people from all walks of life with there are rednecks, there are like devout lesbian couples, like there's like everything, there's literally every race, there's every culture, there's every, and I don't get that here in Green Bay anymore. So I like that I get that on TikTok, you know?
No, I understand that. Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. That's all typically when I'm at work and I have my little AirPod. I'm just like, okay. I was like, I feel like I'm eavesdropping into these people's lives, but they came here. This is voluntary.
Well, and you
Don't
know,
feel too bad.
we all learn so much in hearing other people's stories. Like we really do. So,
Yeah, definitely.
well, thanks for
All
sharing
right,
yours
Erin.
today, Bree.
Definitely. Have a
I'll
good
talk to you later.
weekend.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.